What's up, traders? Matt from the Trade Brigade here with your weekend crypto report, where as always, I do a technical analysis and give you my thoughts on the coins listed up above. A couple of notes about the watch list. We did go ahead and drop Shiba Inu, and the only reason we're going to include these three at the bottom of the list are for some follow-up reasons. I don't want to leave you high and dry on those charts there, but I'm not sure how much longer they will be sticking around. The other thing I would point out before we get into it is that a majority of our coins here are feeling some pain, right? And because of that, we're really going to focus on the large inflection points where things start to become bullish again, or some lower levels where we want to be on high alert for potential reversal patterns. So kicking things off here on our Bitcoin daily chart, what I want to point out is the block theory that we've been following for quite some time. So here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, and potentially 4 was trying to form here. Clearly, as I'm recording this, we are firmly breaking down outside of potentially block number 4. Remember, it was a half step down from 3, but still a half step up from number 2, keeping us, in a better uptrend, as opposed to now really more of a signal that we're getting more neutral activity out of the coin here. So with that sort of out of the way, all I would point out is that to the downside, it's all about 41K. If we were to come down into it, remember that I am a dollar cost average sort of investor in the coins. I will certainly be initiating a small buy position at that area here. And even if it goes lower, I'll pick out another point, right? So for me, 41K is that big inflection point to the downside where we'll see, do we produce a bounce? And if you're a shorter term trader, you're on the lookout for reversal patterns as and if we come down into that area. Now, if we never make it there, then fine, right? Let's drill down to the 4-hour time frame and talk about the sort of way that we would get involved to the long side if that breakdown never comes. So as of right now, we are building a descending triangle, right? Something that would look like this. We also have flat lows, and again, we're breaking down underneath this area, so I would imagine more downside is in play here. However, the main way to get involved to the long side would probably be if we get a reversal to here. I would be patient, wait for the major resistance trend line, and then short-term scalpers. Certainly, a break of 50K could get you to about 53K. We know that that's the important range. From the bottom end, if we go back out to the one-day chart here, it's 53K is coming from, making this auto. There we go. So it's the bottom end of block number 3 from here and top end of block number 2 from there. So that's how you would get involved to the long side here on a break, or if it continues lower, it's all about 41K. Those are the two big areas in Bitcoin I'm looking at over the course of the weekend. Next up, we have Ethereum. We're going to leave it on the daily here. This chart's a little bit more sloppy. It's grinding as opposed to trending lower. What you'll notice is it's more sideways as opposed to Bitcoin is clearly lower, correct? So, I mean, it's not the end of the world here. However, it's just harder to get involved in one direction versus another when you have a chart like this. So for me, longs are only going to be produced if we can get back above this breakdown point here, 39.50, 4 grand even if you like round numbers there, for a rotation into 42.16, and we're bearish on a breakdown of this flush point here at these lows. Let's actually go to a 4-hour. Sometimes trading view is odd about this. Yeah, this is actually fairly decent. So you can see all these touches that are turning into a flush point at 36.58. If we rotate to the bottom, I would not be a buyer down here. Instead, looking for this to break, noting that we clearly have lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. If it breaks, again, that target for the next potential bottoming pattern would be at 33.79 inside of Ethereum. And after that, do we have anything else? No, but it would be. Let's throw this on together just to be prepared. I'm not forecasting this. I just want to know where it is. 31.62. So Ethereum in a nutshell, longs only produced back up and over the bottom end of this range from in here for something that might look like this into 42.16. And, a breakdown of this only looking for reversals closer to about 33.79. That's Ethereum in a nutshell. Next up, we have Binance. Let's just do the same thing. We'll go back out to the daily just to see where we're kind of hanging at. What I would point out about this chart is that it's actually starting to give us a little bit of a cup and handle type vibe, which of course is a bullish pattern here, but there's a lot of work to be done, right? Just because the pattern is showing itself does not mean that we're immediately going to jump in long. So the only trigger for this would be up and over the resistance trend line, which again is fairly far overhead. So a lot of work to be done if the cup and handle is going to play out. But if it breaks, it's likely a move here to the top, right? To the top of the cup. And that's roughly 691.70, all-time high here inside of Binance Coin. On a breakdown of the flag lows, and essentially you could just look at this as being the flag, quote unquote, but a breakdown underneath here at 521, which we're flirting with right now. The next interesting point is 455.70. Again, let's go down to a 4-hour just to make sure we're not seeing things funkily on the daily. And no, everything's fine here. It checks out. Again, the chart would suggest more bearish than bullish, noting that we clearly have lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and flat equal lows. It's not a beautiful sort of descending triangle like Bitcoin. However, it is ultimately a bearish context here inside of Binance. Again, in a nutshell, your downside level to watch over the weekend, 455, and the upside is very, very far away, likely not going to get involved to the upside, at least for a larger break of the resistance trend line over the course of the weekend, right? I'm not forecasting something like this. If you're interested in longs for scalps in Binance Coin, then maybe it's up and over these highs closer to 550, slightly underneath actually. Let's just throw it on together so we're aware. It's also prior support from right here, so it's actually 545, okay? Anything that does this and then breaks up above, boom, overhead resistance is just a couple bucks away, about $20 away at 563. So overall, longs are not looking too impressive in this name as of right now. Let's move along and talk about Cardano. This one is, we discussed this a little bit in last week's video as well. It's all about one, the big bad round number one. You can see all of the interactions that we've had in the past right here. We're coming into that floor. We're not quite at it right now, but on further breakdown, that's the obvious must-hold area here inside of Cardano. Let's zoom in a little bit and see what we've got in terms of upside levels. If there's going to be some sort of break, it's probably just a rotation to the top end here, closer to about 150. Again, I wouldn't forecast that based on the trend that we're in. So let's drill down to the 4-hour, look at a little bit more nuance here. There we go. And this one, actually, just like Bitcoin, is putting in a fairly respectable pattern. What I'm going to do is actually just adjust that white line down a little bit. You can see how we have much better interaction here at these lows, big touches, attempting it as of right now. And also, just like Bitcoin, this secondary resistance trend line, by the way, is no longer doing it for us. So we're going to get rid of that. But we have clean lower highs, right? So just like in Bitcoin, descending triangle overall, you could start to call it a descending or bearish pennant. Not looking good for upside, right? So if it comes down into 1, remember that nice round psychological number, fantastic, looking for buying opportunities or reversal patterns. The only way to get bullish on Cardano if that doesn't happen is just like Bitcoin, a break of the secondary resistance trend line to get into the primary, and a move here could potentially take us back into that 150. As of right now, I hope I've been hammering this home. The chart is fairly bearish. That is not a likely scenario that I'm seeing over the course of the weekend. Let's continue on and talk about Solana, going back out to the daily time frame just to get a sense here. And again, firm downtrend happening in this area of the chart. Coming into this horizontal area we had mapped out. Bigger bounce, I would say. So in terms of relative strength, relative weakness, a nicer bounce inside of Solana than what we've seen so far across some other names there. But again, nonetheless, still in a daily downtrend, giving us a lower high here, significant lower high from what we had way up there in earlier parts of December, late November. So with that kind of out of the way, we should also, let's just actually do it on the 4-hour. I don't want it to deceive us there on the daily with weird wicks. And here we go, right? So if we do break down underneath this low, I'm basically looking for the next major area of support. I would start to call that at 130, that area to watch out for. 129 if you like being, really precise. Prior high, prior low, area of congestion in here as well. So that's where that level is coming from. I'm not saying it will be in play this weekend, but again, just nice to know where these areas kind of are. Again, a little bit of relative strength actually inside of Solana, noting that this reversal off the lows is kind of turning into a 4-hour flag. Don't get me wrong, the current 4-hour bar is threatening to break down underneath the support portion, right? Something like this. So it's not like an obvious long, but if you were looking for a stronger coin to be on the lookout for longs, it would probably be Solana, right? And to me, it's just a break up and over these highs at 185, we'll call it, since these highs are a little bit greater, for a move into this 202, and then from there you can walk up the upside levels, and maybe that happens over the weekend, but it would require a firm break first up and over that 185. Don't forget that Bitcoin is sort of the grand leader of them all. You don't want to fight the trends going on in crypto, in the big names at least. So Solana, if Bitcoin starts to perk up a little bit, this would probably be the top one on my watch list for long-sided scalps into the upside. So next up, we'll move along and talk about Litecoin. Litecoin, just like Bitcoin as well as Cardano, I believe it was, is giving us that beautiful descending triangle. Call it a bearish pennant, basically a breakdown underneath 143.33. Our next level underneath, we should just go out to the daily like we have been doing. We don't have anything mapped out actually. So let's do that together. And it's clearly just these double bottom lows from in here. closer to 114.50. I do want to go to the 4-hour just to make sure we're not being deceived by any daily wicks there. And no, okay, so we will drag that a little bit lower actually. There we go. It's closer to 106.38. So quite a ways to fall actually inside of Litecoin, and wouldn't really be a move you want to be involved in to the long side if you're trying to scalp this, right? So longs only being produced, just like we talked about in Bitcoin, if we break the secondary trend line we have here to negate the descending triangle, and then if we can clear this, I would probably, at this point in time, to be honest with you, inside of Litecoin, this break is not too attractive. You're not going to trade for like $5 here in my estimation. It's probably a move back up and over about 165, clearing all of this resistance, giving us that added confidence that yes, the next rotation can be underway from 165 into about 187. That to me would be the attractive thing to watch out for inside of Litecoin. So one more time, again, really needing to do a lot of work to become attractive for longs, and the downside level to watch out for is 106 in Litecoin. Next up, we have Ripple. And again, back out to the daily just to see what's going on here. Back to auto. This one looks more like Bitcoin, right? We do see that descending trend line. We also get bearish flag, bearish pennant type activity in here, flat lows. I would imagine we could see a descending triangle on the 4-hour in just a second. Underneath us, what do we have? Well, certainly coming from here, prior top in here and lows in there, 69 cents. And I'm actually just going to say 6952, right? I'm going to omit the decimal. So 69.52, and then underneath that, we have 59.30 to the upside. Again, only getting bullish if we can recapture the top end of the range at 88.04, bringing us into the next set of bottoms at 96.19. Let's see that a little bit more cleanly on the 4-hour time frame chart. And again, here we go. This actually might be interesting, okay? So watch this as well. Here's your resistance trend line, right? But you also have a bit of a support trend line. It's not the prettiest thing, but maybe this is more of a symmetrical triangle instead of so clearly a descending triangle like we've seen in many other coins. So more apt to go in either direction here. However, favoring the dominant trend from the daily, which of course would be down. So be on the lookout for those downside targets to get re-involved. 69.52 once again, and 59.30 to the upside, only getting bullish on a break of this horizontal area, which could coincide, depending on time, with the resistance trend line. So over 88.04 into 96.19 as we discussed. And then, of course, it's all about $1 even inside of Ripple. Next and lastly, for the big coins, we have Polkadot. This one going back out to the daily. And once again, the pattern is oh so similar, still in a strong daily downtrend, getting some bearish acceptance here. The concern about a lot of these charts, and I may as well point it out on this one because it is fairly obvious, is that this starts to pan out for a massive head and shoulders, right? Obviously, a breakdown could be under that. If that ultimately is the neckline, we'll have to see, but that's one concern, something to keep in the back of your mind if these charts start bouncing and then ultimately give us a significant lower high underneath the all-time high in many of these cases. So let's go down to the 4-hour and just talk about the more nuanced perspective here. This chart's a little bit sloppy, I'm not going to lie. I'm not really liking this level in here at the 26.67. It's really just kind of on a downward grind, and you could even start to do something like this, downtrend channel almost. It's not pretty, but it certainly is there. Lower highs, lower lows. So watch out for ping pong in here. The only way to get long would be on a break, or, there's a couple of ways. For the more conservative trader, it's up and over this for something like this into the dominant resistance trend line, this prior low as well at 32.82. For the aggressive trader, if you firmly believe that this channel is going to hold up, then you're long here. You're looking for this, you sell the position. You look for something back down here, you long this, you sell the position, right? That's how you trade the channel. Ultimately, if you're aggressive, stop loss goes under the lows. In each instance, maybe you hold on to a piece of the position at the top to see if the breakout does occur. So that's what you could do here inside of Polkadot, but the chart would not really suggest that, longs are favorable in this type of environment. Instead, again, looking for that downside target, let's scrunch up the chart here and see where that 19 is coming from. Big shelf of prior support in here. A little bit of congestion, not really resistance from in the past, but that's what I would ultimately watch out for if this horizontal area starts to go at 23.35. Quite a ways to fall right into 19, but that is that next potential pattern area where if you start seeing reversal patterns, that's where you want to get involved. 19 even here inside of Polkadot. Next up, let's move through these last three fairly quickly, and then I'll send you on your way. Crypto.com coin, just not really doing a whole lot, but again, I did want to at least update you here. Just like a majority of the things we've been watching today, descending triangle is in place. Really wouldn't touch this one until we get into about, I don't know, this is such a decimal-esque type coin here. So 41.82, okay, after the decimal, of course. That's on a breakdown of these lows here from the descending triangle at 51.65, okay? So not looking fantastic. Only way to get involved long without the breakdown would be a break up and over this resistance trend line and horizontal area closer to 58.15 for the rotation to the tops. From in here, slightly shy of 67.03. I'd really just watch out for 6,500 here. That's, of course, after the decimal, as we mentioned. Next up, we have Matic. And this one's actually, it's the only green name on the board, ironically enough, but it's really not going anywhere. It's just kind of going sideways. So maybe that's a sign of relative strength in an overall weak market, but I'm just not seeing the reason to get involved. It sort of lost its hype from around in here, certainly pulling back really aggressively, kind of at that level right now. If we can clear it, then yeah, maybe there's a bit of a rotation into about 225, right? Let's see if that is the number. Yeah, 225 seems reasonable to me on a breakout up and over 215. Again, you're only trading for about a 10-cent gain there. Not sure how, worth your time that is. And then after that, it's the highs in here, close to 250, give or take. So maybe that's really the larger trade to watch. Watch for something to get into here, flag to develop, and a break for that move there. Looking at this as here, higher low pullback. So boom, boom. Retest, break potentially takes us higher, as we mentioned, to 252. So maybe there is something decent coming here on Matic, especially noting that it is the relative strength, the only relative strength that we see here on the watch list. And then lastly, we have COVAL, which of course was Circuits of Value USD. And I really did think that this was an interesting project. The fact that you can sort of combine and make a conglomerate coin to trade, let's say you want to pop Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano all in one instrument, then you only have to trade that one coin, right? Whatever you make on the COVAL sort of network, if you will. Obviously, investors, traders, they didn't care about the idea. Maybe the project's a complete flop. I didn't really do in-depth research. I just liked the idea of that conglomerate coin, and clearly it broke down underneath our bull flag lows. So there was no reason to get involved in this long anyways. It's not like we had a big fake break of the pattern. It simply came right back down to the lows, broke out, and never looked back, right? So to me, this is completely off the radar, but I did want to do the courtesy of giving a follow-up sort of video and analysis on it, just noting we're well underneath that bull flag that we mentioned in the last video. So that's going to wrap it up. If you enjoyed the video today or learned anything new, let me know in the comments section or by giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget that the weekly watch list will come out as scheduled on Sunday. All of that being said, I wish you a green trading weekend.